Hey everybody, Coach Mark here. And before I dive into today's video, make sure to find me over on Instagram as Coach Mark Estrabio. I offer one-to-one coaching. It's what I do full-time and the odds are very, very good. I'd love to work with you. With that being said, let's get into it. In today's video, this is part 4 in the series, and I'll be talking about my lower developmental training day. Now, just as a quick reminder, in my little iteration of Conjugate, developmental is what replaces dynamic effort. They're usually one and the same in that it is a second, lighter day used to help develop certain attributes for myself as a lifter or for one of my athletes that we're most focused on. However, instead of just speed work, I'll often make use of things such as tempos, density work, basic volume work, whatever it is that I feel makes the most sense. And do remember, even at Westside Barbell, which is really where most of us know about Conjugate from, they'll replace dynamic effort every now and again with simple, basic 5x5 training to help add a little bit of muscle mass. So let's not lose the plot here. Now, as far as my lower developmental day goes, this is the day where I tend to put more focus in on my squat training overall. I find that for myself with my squat, I just need more time with a fixed variation to get better at it. Plus, I'm squatting on my other day, on the intensive day, with a different variation, but on this day, this is my primary squat, which is the high bar squat. I like the high bar squat a lot because it does rely on a lot of torso and leg strength, so it has a lot of carryover to my deadlift, as well as loading and moving events, and it's a lot easier on my elbows, shoulders, and low back, so then I don't make as much inroads against my recovery. Now, if I were maximally concerned with as much weight as possible on the bar, such as putting up the biggest possible total for a powerlifting meet, a low bar squat would probably be the more prudent decision, but I'm thinking about long-term development as well as balancing all my other competing training needs, so it's high bar squats. Then after that, I'll move into an SSB deadlift stance good morning to pins. Really great back builder, and again, I'm finding it has a ton of transference, not just to my deadlift, but also to my squat due to that increased torso strength. Dumbbell step-ups, a chest-supported row of choice, and then after that, a landmine twist and ab wheel density set to help build a strong, rigid core. Now, as far as the squat training goes, as I had alluded to in my previous video on upper developmental day, I'm using more of a block progression here with some triples, some doubles, and then some singles thereafter. And what I did here is rather than using an RPE8 single for where I scale my percentages, I actually took out a fatigue single that I recently hit, which was 420, which I had done after 8 triples at a lighter weight and then just worked my way up from there. 420 would probably be something I could probably hit for an RPE7 on a given day. So it's just a weight that I felt very comfortable and secure with, which is why if you notice these percentages are extremely aggressive, especially in the later weeks where I'm hitting a single at 110% of what my training max of 420 is. My big goal here is to get to a 495 squat by end of year, if not sooner. So right now, if we look at this, if I were to hit 110% in week 8, 420, that puts me at roughly a 465 to 470 squat. This is an extremely aggressive progression and one that I generally don't suggest. The reason why I'm using it, however, is I have built a lot of general strength in between front squats, box squats, rows, sled work, and lunges. So my big I would say limiter with my squat right now is more the confidence under heavy loads as well as skill development, which is why I have all this heavy work in there, and then some volume work thereafter is to help refine positions. You'll notice I'm not doing sets of 8 to 10 or any higher rep work like that because I really want to focus in on maximal load. That way I can feel confident underneath that heavy weight and just get used to having that load on my back. If you haven't done a lot of heavy back squatting, it can really be a bit of a culture shock because your body's not used to feeling that weight. Additionally, this to me will help me improve my yoke runs down the road should I get back to competing more consistently in strongman because I will be used to carrying that heavier load on my back with a more upright torso. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about my history with the squat. I do have a bit of an odd past with it. Way back when I was more focused purely on powerlifting, I'd actually done a 545 low bar back squat in competition as well as 565 in training. In the years since, I'd had a shoulder injury, not from lifting, but it rarely is from lifting, right? It's usually life outside of the gym. In between the shoulder history as well as elbows and low back discomfort, I've just found I don't like low bar squatting at all. It's one of those movements where there's no joy in it for me, so I don't work very hard, so I sandbag my workouts, which in turn creates this really negative feedback loop where then I'm unhappy with my workouts, I'm unhappy with my progress, I'm unhappy with myself for sandbagging, so then I sandbag because I don't like what I'm doing, and it's just a negative downward spiral. Whereas if I use a high bar squat, even if I am sacrificing, let's say, 10 to 15% optimal strength, because the enjoyment and the compliance is there, long-term outcomes should be better. The high bar squat, I feel a lot more confident and competent with it as well. Additionally, it doesn't beat me up so bad that it makes inroads against my other movements. Now that said, as I get stronger in the high bar squat, this might present itself, but ultimately I'm going to worry more on concrete issues right now that have presented themselves in the past than hypothetical futures. Because by worrying about a potential hypothetical down the road that I'm not even close to experiencing, all I'm doing is clipping my own wings in my squat training. So this progression allows me to simply take my squat training more seriously when it's been a timeline that I've kind of phoned it in for the past couple years. And with respect to the programming of the accessory movements, the deadlift stance good mornings, it's just 2 challenging sets of 5 to 8s, and I'm going to pins that put my torso at an angle similar to where I start my deadlift or where my collapse happens on a high bar squat, so that way I'm strong enough to recover out of that position and also have the torso rigidity to maintain the position should I find myself getting pulled out of it. Step ups, 2 challenging sets of 5 to 8. Not using a deadlift stance into pins, just ignore that part. Then after that, I'm doing a chest supported row of my choosing here, and I'm opting for chest supported because I actually find that after deadlifts, then the overhead and bench day, and then squats, now my low back's fairly fatigued. It's not hurting, but it's fatigued. So by using a chest supported row, I can hedge my bets and help start recovery process a little more quickly. So I'm gonna do a rest pause set here, then I'll take a 20% load drop and do another rest pause set there. Very basic standard progression. I find that rest pause works really well for supported row variations, whereas for standing row variations, you have to be very mindful of your positioning, so something to keep in mind. And then for the landmine and ab wheel, it's just that classic 10-minute density phase. And with these accessories, all I'm really focusing in on is building a little bit more leg strength, but I'm putting in priority torso strength and rigidity to prevent myself from folding over, because that in turn will also help with my yoke runs, moving events, etc., etc. For me, I'm finding it's not so much leg strength that's the bottleneck, it's about rigidity through the midline. Because if I look at where the bar is sitting versus where my center of gravity is, having longer femurs, that's a very long fulcrum there, so I need to strengthen the whole lever. Overall, the volume is fairly low on this program. I'm not doing a ton of squatting, because as I've alluded to earlier, I do have a high level of general strength right now. I just need to focus on skill under heavy loads. Additionally, with my lower intensive day, I am doing an SSB box squat right now, which does allow for quite a bit of overload and allows me to put a lot of weight on my upper back so I can keep some of that neurological tonus, if you will. I feel confident with that. So I am squatting 2 times a week. I just passed week 4 and hit 4 plates for a set of 2, which is actually a 2R MPR for me on the high bar back squat. So we're going to take that as a win. Things are turning over pretty steadily. Over the next few weeks, it's going to get really spicy, especially in week 6, where I'm supposed to be somewhere around 420 to 435 for a double. So that wraps it all up. We're going to have one more video in this series, at least as I'd planned, and that's going to be my upper intensive day. But I'm also going to go ahead and do another video thereafter discussing warm-ups a little bit in my own training and how I go about plug and playing those. I'm not going to only talk about general warm-ups, but also warm-up sets and rep schemes based off of how load, things like that. Just think of this as a good general primer on how to improve your warm-ups to get more out of your workout. But I'll see you next time in the next video where we'll be talking about upper intensive training.